What's up, fam? How you guys doing today? This is Todd. Welcome to another edition of God Dreamers. I'm so excited today because I'm going to be talking to cool drummer extraordinaire, but beyond that, some of the other things that he's doing is like that's kind of like totally different from music. But we'll get into that shortly. So, welcome to God Dreamers, Justin Boyd. Man, I'm glad you're here today. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I feel honored and blessed that you have me, by the way, and I'm so excited to be on today. This is awesome.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man, because I'm excited to talk to you finally. I mean, we've kind of crossed paths. We're both members of Victory Church here in Atlanta, and we've kind of crossed paths, maybe not knowingly, but throughout the years. But I know you from being on the praise team way back, and even actually not too far back because you just recently transitioned to something else. But I know you from playing drums for the praise team, and I always thought, man, that dude is killing on the drums, man. One day I'll be just like him if I can just practice.
That's the key, is practice. You got to put in the time. It's hard work.
It is.
It is hard work.
The funny thing about it is and we'll talk about this shortly, but whenever you have a skill set, and you find, oh, I can play drums. Some people, I used to think this, like, well, those drummers, man, they're so awesome, man. They just magically became awesome. Like, no, they didn't magically come off. So they took time to kind of, study their craft and get good at it. So
yeah, hours and hours. I'll share this real quick. The number one thing that I couldn't stand that people said, they'd go, you don't have to practice. You can just get up there and play and you just kill it. Don't even listen to the music. I'd be like, I wouldn't have a job at all anymore. Thank you, though. And I would just smile. I have nothing to say.
I know it's crazy, man. But some people think that way. But no, I mean, we have to, the Bible says study to show thyself approved, right? So we have to work on our craft. So jumping into it, who is Justin Boyd? I mean, what makes you tick, man? Share a little bit about your background.
Okay, so basically, what's funny is living in Atlanta now. Because if you knew where I was born and raised, I mean, I was born and raised in the country, Calhoun, Georgia. Very small. It is. So if you go up 75 north, you'll run into it. You'll pass it.
Okay.
And so as a little country boy, grew up. I mean, and my mom, how I got plugged into the church was my mom. I guess they weren't really like strong believers, but they always took us to church. Like it was a thing, man. Like every Sunday we're going, every Wednesday we're going. But our home life, like when we were at home, it didn't have the same makeup as that, right?
Yeah.
And so really, what happened to me in that process was the Lord was doing a work in me, And so that whole time, even though it was kind of like a religious duty that we were doing as a family, the Lord was really doing some strong stuff in my life. He was speaking to me. He was leading me. He was guiding me. And so basically around the age of 14, I was on the fence. Like I'm either going to go headlong into sin or I'm going to like fully surrender to the Lord. And the Lord encountered me and got my heart. Like I was literally on the fence and the Lord encountered me. And I cried for like an hour and I've never been the same. And what's funny is, I was at a youth camp and one of the things that happens is you just never remember what the guy's saying, but the presence of the Lord is in the room. And so I was at a youth camp when it happened, and it shifted and changed my life forever. I even became different in the way that I like walked and talked in school. Like people automatically knew that I was a strong believer. And so really, I feel like the main makeup of me is the Lord has always had his hand on my life. And I always try to live a life that's fully surrendered, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it hurts. That's kind of been what I've always strived to do. And I wasn't perfect after that, as no one is at 14, but and so it really wasn't until like the age of 19 that I answered the call on my life. And that's really where I saw maturity happen in my relationship with Christ. And then I had the boldness then. I was kind of like older and grown, and I'm like, okay, I'm putting the stake in the ground. Here we go. And
Yeah.
so I'm 39 now, so that was 29 or 20 years ago.
Wow.
Whew, that's crazy.
Time flies.
Yeah, and so that really has set me steady. And I'll just share a quick story of how that happened. I was driving around in my truck one night, feeling lost, and my church was having a youth explosion. Did you ever hear about those?
Yeah,
Where
I
like
remember that back in the day.
the explosion of youth explosion. So I knew it was going on, and I had went for years, and I just didn't feel like going. I had a full-time job. I was in college. So I show up, and I'm driving around town, and the Lord's like, you need to go. Like, you need to go. And I was hearing it in my spirit. So I kept driving by the church. And so finally I stopped, and I went in, and I stood in the back. And when I walked in, they were doing the altar call, and the Lord gripped my life. He was like, there is a calling on your life. Do not run. Lean into
Wow.
this. And he was
Wow.
like, I'm calling you to be a youth pastor, a pastor. I'm calling you to give your life fully to me. So I go down, and just picture this,
Wow.
and it's Baptist. So like, it wasn't very charismatic. Well, I just shoot down to the altar, and I get on my face and start praying. And no one else did. Everybody was in their seats. I was the weird guy.
Who the
Look at
guy?
him. Yeah. So yeah. So anyways, my youth pastor afterwards happened to be the person leading the event. And so he pulls me aside, and he's like, what happened to you? Like, what is going on with you? Like, you didn't come any of the days. You show up, you sit in the back, you get wrecked, you're crying. So I tell him that what the Lord told me. So
Wow.
this is crazy. He goes, can you please come back tomorrow and share this on stage in front of everyone? So I get encountered one night, and the very next night around the same time, I'm speaking in front of 400 or 500 youth
What?
and telling them my testimony. And so the Lord
Wow.
was like, this is an outward act. I'm showing you this of what happened in you inwardly. I'm going to let this come out of you. And this should be a sign to you, that you are marked for the rest of your days to serve me, like a
Wow.
prophetic sign. Like, I'm not going to make this much more clear for you, son. You know what I mean? Like, who
Yeah.
gets encountered one day and then is preaching the next? And I mean, I went in. Something came
Wow.
out of me that night. You've seen me pray before. Like, it was that same type of tenacity that came out of me, the same type of passion. And so that's kind of the makeup of me. Like, even since I've been married, I'm like, I mean, this is how we're going to conduct our life. We're going to be surrendered and obedient, even if it hurts, even if there's times where we feel like we got to give a lot, or we, got to be a little bit more connected in the church, or we're going to raise our kids a certain way. Whatever we got to do, we're going to stay connected to the heart of God. So that's kind of the makeup. That's who I am. That's some of my backstory. I got an amazing wife named AJ Boyd, and two boys, by the way. One's 4
Mhm.
and one's just turned 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah, already saying mama, daddy. I'm like, this is crazy. So
That's awesome, man. And I didn't know that. Like I said, I didn't know that your life was like that in the beginning. And I and then how did you end up, getting involved in, playing drums at church? I mean, was that because I didn't know you had that calling so early on. So how did the drums and praise worship kind of come into being based on
yeah.
that calling?
So my church that I grew up in, I got really good at drums around the age of 13 or 14. I was playing kit. So they started using me on Sunday morning, which was a big deal because I don't know if you remember, church used to only have organs and pianos. So my church had like the organ that went all the way up the wall, and the
Wow.
pipes go out. I
The old
mean,
school.
yeah, old school, and then a piano player and a choir. And every Christmas we did the bells, dun, 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 you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
So we got a youth pastor that pulled me and my brother in and into that and put us on stage. So I started playing, and then every time I played live, I played in bands too. Like, I would play around town and play rock music, and I was like, I'm really good at this. Like I have a natural act to especially in the rock when I was playing rock music to perform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, but I realized I had a passion to play in church. So fast forward, I go to ministry school, and this is how I really started playing in church. I go to ministry school, and they knew I played drums, and I had not. They had never seen me play drums though. So the drummer calls out, and this is at Victory. You know, this is 2002.
Hmm.
So the drummer calls out, and he's like, "Hey, I can't play." Excuse me. So they say, "Hey, can you jump on drums tonight?" And I jumped up there and smashed it. Never heard any of the music. Never did any of that. It was just, and we didn't have click back then. It wasn't that professional. You just got up and played however. And
Yeah.
so that was my beginning journey at Victory. And then I just kept playing and being faithful and being faithful. And next thing I knew, I was their staff drummer. So
Wow.
playing at the main campus, I mean, they were averaging sometimes 10,000 people on a weekend. And so I'll never forget when I got the job, I went to like my orientation, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna make this super easy," because they hired a drummer, a guitar player, and a bass, and they're like, "Don't mess up." And they're like, "All right, see you guys. Go practice." We were like, "Oh man," and that was it. They're like, "Well, if we're gonna pay you to play, you can't mess up."
True.
So that was really when I learned how to become a professional at what
I
I was doing. That's when it went to a whole nother level. So
I hear you. You mentioned the word faithful. I mean, being a musician, we're notoriously unfaithful.
mhm.
I mean, and I'm being funny, but there's some truth behind that. Musicians are already kind of strange anyway. We're strange people.
Very
Like,
emotional.
yeah, very emotional, very uh, I guess what am I trying to say? Very sometimes unstable.
Yep, yep. Feeling one day, one will feel one way one day, and then the next week could be like the totally opposite.
Totally opposite. Yeah, yeah.
And no one understands that. They're like, "What's the matter with you?" I don't know what's the matter with me. That's just how I am, you know?
I know, but the key thing I think, when you mentioned about being faithful, I think for young people who are watching this, whatever you decide to do, if you're faithful at that, stick with it, beyond the fame, the glory, the money, and so forth, but just sticking with it. I think God will open up the doors for you. Sometimes we're driven, but for whatever reason, whether it's money or fame, but those are really not that important. I think the key thing is knowing in your heart to be consistent and be about excellence, because God is about excellence, and
Yeah.
so and you were rewarded for that, because I know you when you first started, you weren't a staff musician, you were just wanted to play, you just wanted to serve the Lord,
Yeah.
and the doors opened up.
Yeah. I wanted to have fun. I mean, when I was up there, I'll never forget, I was like, I just want to see revival. Like that's my only reason. If I'm not the best drummer or whatever, like I had such a passion for our church and what we were doing, and I wanted to see God break out in a real way, a tangible way. And then at the same time, I absolutely felt like I was in my element up there. You know, like there
Mhm.
was nothing else that I was created to do better in that moment than do that. And so I'll share this. Todd, every single time that I got the opportunity. Now, here's another thing. This is why musicians uh, aren't excellent sometimes, because they're like, yeah, I'll come play. You know, I'll learn the songs and come play. No, no, no. This is an opportunity. Like your attitude is everything. Like every time you get to stand in front of the people of God and play, this is an opportunity. This is an invitation that the Lord gave you, not some man that scheduled you on Planning Center, not somebody that heard about you and thought you was cool there, so they invited you out. Like lives are literally hanging in the balance. And so every single time that I played drums, sorry for hitting my table. You can
No.
probably hear that. But every single time that I played drums, I got on my face behind the drum set, and I prayed, Lord, humble me. Thank you for this opportunity. And if I'm not up here for the right reasons, replace me. Send somebody that really wants to see revival and humble me, you know. And so and that was the whole thing. And then I would repent. I'd be like, if I have any my hands that are unclean, like, because you're sending me before the people. And so I think if musicians got that revelation, they would show up different. And it's not a gig, and it doesn't matter how much I get paid or when I get paid, but this is that's the why is that I have a heart for the Lord and He's using me in this.
Hmm.
And I'm honored to be used in the season. Because as
Yeah.
you know, you can be a musician one day and the next day you could be working a real job.
So
You know what
true,
I'm
man.
saying?
Yeah, I know. I know for sure. I
So
tried. I dabbled at the trying to be a professional musician early on, and realized that I didn't have the discipline. So
yeah.
I got an engineering degree as my backup.
Hey, and I've heard your sound before, and you were awesome at running sound.
Well, thank you,
You
thank
were,
you.
yeah, yeah.
So
So go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was also part of my drumming testimony is I was in a professional band for a year. When I graduated ministry school, I had a guy named Aswan North who started a band called Paper Tongues.
You did
Um,
you played in Paper Tongues?
yeah, on those recordings on the CDs,
What? I
and
didn't
then
know that.
yeah, we
I
were, it was big time.
what? I had to go back and look at the album covers. Were you on album covers?
I wasn't in the album covers. It was really like the lead singer was the face,
The
if
bass.
that
Okay,
makes sense.
okay, yeah.
And so, but I was in that band, and we recorded some stuff in Atlanta. I mean, it was crazy. Like he would come to Atlanta, and I would go to the studio and cut tracks. And I
Wow.
mean, they were spending big money to produce that music. And then he went on. I was only with him for a year, and I played some places with him. But when I left, and this is crazy. I'm going to share this because there's some people that need to hear this. And this is about money isn't everything. The calling of God is more. Um, I was in him when with them when they were small, and they were meeting with AMC Records and Sony and all these record companies. Well, AMC Records had offered them like $2 million signing and like $1 million signing bonus or something like that. And the Lord told me, He's like, it's time for you to go. Like, this ain't for you. Like, you need to get out of here. Like, you have to go back to land. This is what I heard in my spirit. It's gonna blow your mind now because I'm getting famous now.
Yeah.
The Lord goes, I want you to quit this band and I want you to go back to Atlanta and I want you to play with Christian Lewis. Christian Lewis was a worship leader at the International House of Prayer. The 24/7 House of Prayer. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So I go up to Aswan and I go, hey man, I don't know what it is. The Lord's telling me to quit. He's like, you're crazy. You are crazy. Like you're gonna miss out on everything. And then I called my mom, you're crazy, you're gonna miss out on everything. Called my friends, you're crazy, you're gonna miss out on everything. Like, and
Yeah.
so, and I just had to lean into the Lord. I come back to Atlanta and I'll never forget it because the last place I played with him, there was like probably like 1,000 people or something there. And I come into the house of prayer. I play my first set, and there's 3 people in the room and a full band on stage. And the Lord said, He goes, this is what I've called you to. Can you do it? Will you do it? Will you partner with me? This is a place of blessing. I'm going to hide you for a season. Can you handle that? And that changed my life. And so I did that for 2.5 years with Christian playing. And I played with other people there, but primarily I played with him. And so, and then I
Imagine.
still would go play at Victory on Wednesday nights or Sunday mornings if they invited me, you know. And what's crazy that I got that job is everybody that played at Victory at that time was better than me. I mean, they had some world-class drummers, and then every time I went in to play, the music director was like, "Whoa, like there's just something different about you. There's something on your life." You know, and then I would go
Wow.
listen to other drummers playing V1 and I'd be like, all those guys can play circles around me. And then somehow God ordained me for that season. you know? So that's my kind of backstory on drums. And I actually been a drummer plugged into Victory now for like 20 years, or around the time when I, you know, like when I stopped playing drums or whatever for them and
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing now. So that's the whole backstory with that. And
That
my whole thing was like, just stay faithful, you know, give 100% every time, you know? So
yeah. I mean, that's fascinating. I did not know that about the Paper Tongues and you playing for them. And wow, that's deep. And
yeah,
I like what you said about, you know, how sometimes, you know, and this is good because sometimes, a lot of times, God will call you from things that you think are awesome and wonderful, and then, you know, a lot of fame and fortune, and pull you into this area or space that's not like that, but it's where your calling is, and that takes a lot of faith and courage to be able to do that. But you know, the great thing about that is that you will be rewarded great, and you'll be more satisfied, because a lot of times we don't realize, especially in the music industry, we all know this, the music industry and entertainment industry as a whole is a very negative industry. You know, behind the
yeah,
scenes, it's a lot of nasty sin and chaos and so forth. But unfortunately, we that don't know better strive for those things, and then when we get in the midst of it, we realize, oh, what did I get myself into? And
yeah.
then it's hard to get back out. But fast
It,
forward, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that that world is a whole nother world.
Yeah,
It is, you know, all that stuff you just said is true. And it's funny, for some reason that's what everybody wants, you know, and you don't realize the price you gotta pay, like all day, every day, sins in your face, you know? And so go ahead though. I just wanted to
yeah.
throw that in there.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, it's a very evil, unfortunately evil industry, and all the worst of the worst is in the midst of it. People
Yeah.
are going after that. So, but fast forward. So, share a little bit about how God has kind of transitioned you from being a musician and now becoming what is your title right now at Victory, as far as
Children's director. Children's
children's director?
director.
Yeah.
Yep.
So share a little bit about how that came about, because that's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's 180, but it's just not.
Oh, it's 180.
Yeah.
For me it was.
Yeah. So share a little
I
bit
was
about how did
like
that.
I was like, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, my wife and I, which one reason why the Lord told me to come back, I want to just say this. I really feel like one reason why He had me come back to Atlanta too, because if I didn't, I, I don't know if I'd have had the opportunity I had with AJ, my wife. And that really is the greatest calling. Like, who you pair yourself with
Yeah.
will determine your whole destiny. And so I absolutely love my wife. I'm passionate about my wife. And I just want to say that, um, you know, leading into this. So we had Ezekiel. This is part of the how this came about, me transitioning. And it dramatically changed everything about me. I feel like I saw the Lord in a whole new way. I wanted to pour every single thing that I had into that kid. And so I just was really following Jesus on that journey. And I was like, you know, Zeke would come to church and every Sunday watch me play. And I would go put him on the drums before he left, and I would give him some hot rods and let him play. And I think so. Pastor Mo and Pastor Kendra they're the Midtown campus pastors at the time, and I think they saw from a distance how much I love my son and how much I love my wife. And also, AJ and I, we have a stability about our marriage. It's just, you know, like we have a strong marriage. I think, I don't know if you would agree when you see us, but I think that kind of sticks out a little bit too.
Yeah. I gotta get you guys maybe on the next episode of you and your wife to be on, because that story in itself, that whole
20-year,
yeah,
or not
that
20-year, what? Yeah. I've
it,
known her for 20, married for 10. So yeah, it
yeah,
was a
yeah.
journey.
That I want to definitely, if when time permits, to get you guys back on and talk about that journey, because that's pretty cool too. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So I Pastor Mo and Pastor Kendra asked us out to dinner. And so, we've never been out with them. They were fairly new to as campus pastors. And we go out to dinner. My wife, she's very discerning. She picks up what people are putting down. She knows when people are saying certain type of things, what they're really saying. So we go out to dinner with them, and at the time, they were hiring for a children's director. And we're talking, and the moments they were just talking about the position, and I think they were even like, "Well, it's not posted, and we want to hire somebody, from within, a person from within that we trust." And so, and they were hiring for another position, director of operations at the time as well. And so, just through conversation, the dinner was amazing. We were there for like 2 hours. And I was just like, yeah, I'll be praying for y'all about that. You know, I'm just hanging out on the drums, man. And I was actually getting burnt out on the drums. Like the last 3 months, so the Lord had spoken to me for a year prior to this. And he was like, I'm going to transition you, and it's going to be into something you never thought you were doing. And so that's how the Lord operates with me. Like he'll tell me way out, and then he'll be like, you need to be in a place of watching and waiting, and you need to be strengthening yourself in the spirit for your next season. You need to get ready. And so we leave the restaurant from Pastor Mo and Pastor Kendra, and we get in the car, and my wife goes, you know what that was, right? I was like, no. She goes, they want you to be the children's director. And I was like, no, they don't. There's no way. And she's like, yeah. She's like, that's what they want you to do. Like they were kind of staking you out to see where you're at in life. And can I be honest? I go, children's director. Cause I'm a drummer. Like what? Who sees that in somebody that's on stage playing drums? Like, how would you look at me playing drums and say, I want you to be a children's director? But the life that I was living, it's very evident how much I love my son. And that was one of the things, and Pastor Kendra said this a couple of times. She's like, and she's told some people that she's like, you'll never meet anyone that loves their son more than Justin, and that to me is the highest compliment, because it just shows that we're having impact as a married couple with our kids, in our community. And so basically I go and meet with them, and so I knew there was 2 positions, and I'm really good at management. I think you've seen that, and bringing structure. So I told AJ, I was like, I'm going to apply for that director of operations position. I don't want to be a children's director. Full transparency. And because the Lord hadn't really spoke to me about it yet. But I knew that I was called. You've heard me say this. I knew I was called to full-time ministry in some capacity. I always knew God was gonna place me in that. So for me, I was like, I'm just gonna go for the director of operations position and see what happens. So I go meet with Pastor Mo and Kendra. I ask them, hey, can y'all meet? We go to talk, and they're really good at asking questions to see where you're at, to see if you can handle it. And at the end, they just go, we think you'd be a perfect fit for the children's director position. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I don't want to do that. So I drive home from there, and I start praying, and the Lord's like, I want you to, this is your next. I know you can't see yourself in this, but, and you're not feeling this, but I just want you to position yourself in this for this next season. Like, wow. I want you to just say yes. And that's kind of how the Lord speaks to me, Todd. I'm not, like, I don't have to go pray for like 2 hours and get on my face and fast for 5 days to hear something about a decision. It's like I cranked up my car, and he was like, I'm saying yes to you. That's how he spoke to me about AJ. Like, I was in a lumber yard shoveling wood, and he was like, AJ is going to be your wife. I was like, well, okay, all right. Well, that's awesome. Please make it happen. So anyways, yeah, I go and I end up getting an opportunity to meet with the Maces. They called me into an interview, and the interview went so good, and I was really nervous. I actually studied the vision of Victory Kids, because I knew they were going to say, do you know the vision? Do you know our values? So I had studied and rehearsed
Mhm.
all this stuff, and I was like, because I felt like at that point God was calling me to do it. So I just wanted to execute. That's a high level position. Look,
Yeah,
if you
definitely.
are entrusted with kids, like that is huge at a church to
It
get that
is.
that position. I think people see a children's minister as kind of like a lower tier. It's like, no, that's everything. The majority percentage of the people that attend our church are families with kids. We're
True.
averaging a little over 100 kids a weekend in Victory. That's 100 kids, and probably 75% of them have a mom and a dad.
Mhm.
So you're averaging around 300 to 350 people that come on a Sunday morning in attendance in kids, and are with that. That's who you're ministering to, because it's not just the kids. You got to capture the family. A family has one bad experience, they're out of there,
True.
right? So this is all
Mhm.
the stuff I'm thinking in the interview. So the interview goes amazing right there on the spot. The Maces are like, let's go talk to human resources right now. Like, we need to pull a trigger, because they work side by side with the Moments. So those that was the agreement. Like, the Moments have to like you, and the Maces have to like you, and they have to feel like it's the Lord. So I get the job, and I immediately never played. I haven't played drums live since, and I've had the job for 2 years. It'll
Wow.
in 10 days it'll be 2 years. It was like
Wow.
February the 14th that I got hired, and so I literally got that job and haven't did one live setting with drum since. Like, I've been all in at this job. I've given it my all, and I told myself when I got the job, I'm not gonna do any drum. I'm still, you should see me. I go downstairs in like a little wife beater tank top, and I still get it though. I play like Paramore, Hoobastank,
Oh,
those
okay.
bands.
Yeah, I know.
I go down there and I get a good sweat in just to say, man, I can still do this. So it's not that I haven't played. I
Yeah,
just haven't been giving it the attention to let it distract what God's calling me to do right now in life.
I got you.
Because I feel like there was an opportunity for me to dabble in both. But I feel like that if I would have kept playing live, it would have taken some attention away from kids ministry. So I'm one of those guys, like, when the Lord's like, this is where I want you to be all in on, I'm like, that's the place of blessing. Whatever you say, Dad. You know
Amen.
what I'm saying?
Amen to that.
So that's
And
kind of how that went. And you can tell me if my answers are too long, by the way. I'm
no,
trying
no,
to
no, no.
give. Okay,
It's all good, man. It's going
I
good.
like to talk. You know?
No, no, you don't like to talk now. You're kind of an introvert.
Oh, no, no. I could talk. If you were like, hey man, just share your testimony, I could share for like 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, we could go on forever and ever. But I know this day is going by pretty quickly, so we're gonna close shortly. But one thing I wanted to say, I wanted you to share, or at least those that are watching, because I know right now we're in this series at our church. Well, it's not really a series; it's actually a cultural shift about one step as far as doing what God has called you to do. But if you can, just briefly share those who are watching how, those who are struggling with what God has called them to do. And the biggest challenge, even myself at the age that I am, throughout, like we talked about this early on, that we've been bombarded from the world's culture of, go after your passion, just
Do you?
do you be you, do you, go after the money, go, and success is, having all these good things. But I've learned even recently that it's not so much, going after what your passion is, but really going after what God has called you to do, because that's where your passion is, even though you may not even
Yeah.
know, be aware of it. But anyway, if you can talk a little bit about those, if you could share a little bit about those who are struggling about what their purpose is, and any words of encouragement, that'd be awesome.
So, yes, I love this question. First of all, I would say if you are somebody that lacks prayer life and real quality time with Jesus, you're going to have a hard time finding your purpose. And so, what is everyone's purpose? It's to go into all the world and preach the gospel, right? That is the purpose. The gospel is not just the salvation message. Jesus was here before the beginning of time, and he gave life to everything. And he will be here at the very end to see all that endure till the end be saved, right? So our calling, first of all, is to know the gospel. Okay, so listen, I just want everybody to hear this, because some of us in life, We're going to go out there and we're going to get in our purpose, and we're not going to last long because we don't have the self-endurance. When we get hit with a couple of things, a couple of trials, we're going to lay back and be like, maybe I wasn't called to do this. So first of all and foremost, I don't care if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's or you own a Fortune 500 company. Your calling is to know Jesus and preach the gospel no matter where you're at in life. That's what you're called to do. That's your purpose. That's your destiny. If you don't have a passion for that, then we need to pray. We need to pray. We need, because nothing that I do with my hands and my feet should determine anything about my relationship with the Lord. I know that no matter where I go, no matter what room I walk into, no matter who I talk to, there is a purpose in that moment. And if we can't tap into that reality, if we can't even see that for what it is, how can we be entrusted over the bigger and greater things that God is calling us to do? Where now you're shepherding maybe 300, 400, 500 people, or now you're running a company with 100 people that you got to be responsible for. You got to be truthful with. You got to shepherd. Like, so even if you're in the marketplace, that company you're running with 100 people, you're the pastor, you're the shepherd. How are you stewarding those people? If you're not drawing from the well if you don't have a well to draw from, and God's not doing stuff in your life, and you're not coming in accelerating with your relationship with the Lord, and your vision isn't to, man, whether I'm in a box with not a lot, or I'm a millionaire and have a house on a hill and a mansion, I'm going to love Jesus with my whole heart, and I'm going to preach the gospel. And every room I walk into, every situation I am, there's a purpose, there's a calling. Someone's life is in the balance. What am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my life? What is happening right now? Like, there is a reality. The Bible says to be sober and vigilant, to be sober-minded and vigilant. And so that is our calling. That is our purpose. If we don't have that revelation, it's me and Jesus right here. Because sometimes we don't talk about this. This will block this out. This, your mind, the way you think, what you let in here, it can totally overcome how Christ is calling you to live. So these have to be connected in spirit and truth, mind, body, soul, and spirit. And so there's a calling to know God and make God known. So that's what I would say to you first. Okay. The second thing I would say to you is what are you doing in your life, and how are you being faithful every single day? Todd, you have heard me say this. I had somebody say this to me the other day, and I don't even know why they said it, because I didn't even ask them to say it. They called me and they said, "Can I tell you something about yourself?" And it was a pastor at a church, a lead pastor. So it'd be like if Pastor Mo called and said this to you. Just, they called me. I didn't text you. We didn't talk on, you know what I'm saying? He said, "Can I tell you something about yourself?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "Man, you've been faithfully plugged into the church for 20 years. And you've been there every week, week in and week out. You've been fired, hired, like probably done wrong, done good. And I just want to let you know that there's not many people like that in the church anymore. There's, the people that get hit in the mouth and they get up and they keep on coming because God told them to, or a life circumstance happens. All of a sudden the bottom falls out of your life. Who are you then? What are you pulling on? Is it just emotion? Are you just going to sink in there, that hole? And just, are you going to like jump out of the hole and put some dirt in it and run on top of it? You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what I'm saying right now, but I like it. Yeah. But so my thing is that you can't just be faithful over something a couple of times and then think you've arrived. There is something where you've been faithful for 5, 10 years. You say, "God, I'm going to be completely faithful over my life for the rest of my life, every day, all day. Even if I tell a white lie, I'm going to go repent for it. If I'm dishonest in a slight way, I'm going to go repent for it. If you told me to give $100 and I didn't give it." You know, a lot of people who are in financial crisis, they go, "Can you just pray for me?" I would love to pray for you. But what I want to encourage you, and this is my encouragement, open your ear and say, "God, where do you want me to give?" You know what I mean? Like, even if it's $5 and you feel like you don't have it. I was broke in ministry school and I found a $20 bill in a washer. one time. And I was like, my goodness, I'm going to go get some food. And the Lord was like, I want you to, and I was on my way to church that morning. He goes, I want you to, this is your tithe. You don't have anything. So this is what I want you to give. And I was like, I don't want to give this. He said, I'm looking to and fro throughout the earth to find someone who I can entrust myself to, who I can give my spirit to, who I can pour into and launch into the world. And so that's what I would say, like, tap into the Lord, know your calling, know who you are. In this place of waiting, sometimes we get so distraught, and it's like, no, I'm a son. I'm a daughter. Like, I know God's got me. Like, I'm not eating the scraps that come off the king's table. I'm sitting at the table with the king. But yet because I don't know who I am, I will still doubt all this. I will still let, sin infiltrate me when something comes up. I'll have outward bursts of emotions that lead me to make a bad decision. It's like, no. I'm going to pick what's good and wholesome all the time and what God wants me to pick. And then when I'm in it, I'm going to be in it to win it. So it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter. I see people, they serve in the church, and they wear their emotions on their sleeve. Like, one day they'll show up and they're like, fire. And then they'll have a flat tire and be like, I quit. Like, I just have so much going on in my life. You know what I'm saying? That's a man tossed to and fro throughout the ocean. It says in James, he is unstable in all his ways. Mm-hmm. And so that would be my thing. And then when God tells you to go do the next thing, and you find out your real calling, be all in, even if it means at certain times that you're gonna lose sleep or whatever, or like the stress and the struggles that come with it. It's all worth it. It's all worth it. And God will grow that. He will nurture everything that he's doing in that season that he's called you to do. And so that's what I have on that. I learned that a long time ago. I was struggling in drumming. No, Todd, I was struggling in drumming. And the Lord told me, he's like, I actually don't care outwardly what you do, like, in the world and in your life. Like, I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to share the gospel. And you got to get it's not just the salvation. That's not gospel. It's the full love of God. He created us in the image of him, the Imago Dei, Jesus. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and that transformed me. And that's really, I'll never forget, I was in Belize on a mission trip when he spoke that to me. And ever since then, once I got that revelation, it was like this. It's never went like that.
Wow. I have no words to say, but thank you, man. Wow. That was powerful and so true. Well, we're going to close here, but thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed this time, discussing your life and how God has kind of guided you through all the different avenues and turns and so forth, and how he's using you today and doing some great things in the ministry. So thank you, man. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that those who are watching are going to be really blessed. I'm blessed by it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I feel honored. And I want to let the world know something about you and your wife.
Uh-oh.
Y'all, and I want everybody to hear this, because I know this is a podcast, but there's so much vision and purpose that you have behind this to transform the world. And I just want to tell the world that Todd and his wife are faithful over everything God's calling them to do. They show up week in and week out with smiles. They'll come before and they'll stay after. When we were building Victory Midtown, Todd came and built furniture, and he did it with a joyful heart. I've never seen them live like this. And so I want to say that about you and your wife, that when y'all are listening to this podcast, Todd is the real deal. This content is the real deal. Everything that he's doing is to really have an impact and transform your life for the kingdom. And that's what I know about them. So I just want to say that.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. We pressing towards the mark of the prize. I mean, it's an ongoing process, but to God be the glory, right? So
absolutely.
So guys, if you guys want to know more about God Dreamers, please visit goddreamers.com. If you have any ideas or any people that that are doing great things for the kingdom, reach out. If you like what we're doing, subscribe, like our page, and until next time, we'll see you. God bless and take care.
God bless. Take care. Thanks.